Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today we are featuring from the DC Multiverse by McFarlane Toys, we have Lex Luthor Power Suit. So this is the second release of this action figure. It comes under the McFarlane Gold Label collection. So with the Gold Label collection, generally it's an action figure that was released prior, and they might have updated it or upgraded it or given it different accessories or a different head. It's a chance for you, if you missed it out on the first time, to buy the figure, and they're kind of cool. I don't know, I always kind of have mixed feelings about the Gold Label stuff. Sometimes I feel like it's kind of like a cheap money grab, like I think they re-released like the Jason Todd Red Hood as a Gold Label figure, and I think they gave you a figure without the mask and without the guns, which is, it's missing all the important things that makes the Red Hood, and yet it was a Gold Label figure. There was a Gold Label Flashpoint Batman, which I thought was kind of a cool idea, but they gave you the Dr. Thomas head instead of the Batman head, and I'm not sure if he still came with guns or not. But sometimes the Gold Label stuff feels cheap because it's often just like a head swap with a change of accessories. And that's kind of the case here. And go back in my catalog of videos and I do a pretty lengthy review on the first release of this figure. I love that figure a lot. I love this character a lot. And I think it's going to be really up to you on whether or not you feel like you need this action figure. So let's get started with the review. So what we have here is Lex Luthor in his Superman power suit. This, for me, is my favorite iteration of a Lex Luthor character. There's a period of time when he joined up with the Justice League and he donned the blue power suit that we see here. And he kind of became the guardian and protector of Metropolis. I love the fact that Lex Luthor could be very complicated, and that he's not always the cold-hearted villain. I mean, he's always guided by selfish principles, but I think when it comes down to it, I think he does have the human race, in his heart in terms of their best interest. I think he really wants to fulfill that role as being Earth's guardian and protector, and he doesn't like the idea of always, falling behind Superman. But in the case of this storyline, it was kind of cool because he kind of put on the costume in some ways to honor Superman. And I just love that storyline. I love the costume, and it's a great figure. The first release is awesome. One of the key omissions that this version doesn't have, that the first release has, is that they omitted the Throne of Apocalypse from this figure. The first release had the Throne of Apocalypse. It's the one that Darkseid sits upon. It was really cool. You got this giant throne that they somehow managed to package inside the standard box. Another key difference between this figure and the first release is that the first release did not have the cape, and it had a different head. I believe this might be the same head that we saw on the Lex Luthor with the green power armor. But the first version of this figure had the Lex Luthor head with kind of like the blank eyes, the kind of like snarl, and he almost looked like Darkseid, with the helmet and whatnot. So that's a great figure. Now this is where it becomes kind of tricky. If you're more about this character in this look, it's worth getting this. But if you have no sentimental attachment whatsoever to this action figure and you have the first release, I'm going to say you're better off with the first release just because it comes with a cool throne accessory. This is a figure that you get. This should have been the first release figure, in my opinion, because this is a much more iconic version of Luthor than the Darkseid version. The Darkseid version is essentially this without the cape and the Darkseid head and the throne. But that figure, I think, was kind of taken more from a dream sequence from the comic, whereas this is something he actually wore in the comic, and he totally kicked ass in. Alright, so enough background history about that. Let's get started. Great looking figure. It appears to... Now, unfortunately, I didn't bring the first release with me. It's in a box that's inside of another box, and it's at the bottom of a pile of boxes, so I couldn't necessarily reach it for this review. So I'm going to the best of my abilities, provide a thorough review regardless. We'll go over the articulation, detailing, and everything. So this is a standard McFarlane box, but has the gold label. Lex Luthor DC Rebirth. Wonderful action figure photography of Luthor flying high in the sky. And some other figures that are currently out, which is weird because a lot of these figures have been out for months, and just for me, this figure just hit the shelves recently. There's King Shazam, Wonder Woman, and there's actually going to be a gold label version of this figure coming out soon. There's Shriek Unmasked, and there's also the masked variant. You know, you might want to hunt that down if you're into Batman Beyond. Dr. Fate, amazing action figure. I really love that. And then we have the Sean Gordon Murphy Bat Cycle. And let's take out Luthor and get started. Like I said, if you have the first release of this figure, you're not necessarily treading any new ground. The only thing that's really different is the fact that he has the cape and the different head. Otherwise, if you have the first release and you really like the first release, you might just be better off just keeping that. Unless if you're like me and you're just a big fan of Lex Luthor, and if this was a storyline that you really enjoyed, I think this figure is worth the purchase. Alright, so one thing we get with this figure that the initial figure did not come with is this one comes with a flight stand. So that's a nice plus. You know, you can use this for Luthor, you can use it for Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, you know, go nuts. I do miss the throne though. The throne was awesome, so check out that video. It was a really cool accessory, especially for a figure at that price point. You know, the first release was a standard release figure. It wasn't a deluxe figure. It came in the same size box, but they gave us that big ass throne. Really, really cool. And we have Lex Luthor in his blue Superman power suit. It looks awesome. The detailing is great as usual. The Superman emblem is sculpted on nicely. It's a great looking relief on the character. Really detailed head sculpt. It really captures that presence of Lex Luthor, that sense of authority. He's very intimidating. And let's take him out. Alright, so we have Lex Luthor in his Superman power suit. So in the comic book, I think this is actually supposed to be Superman's like legit cape. And it's to honor his memory. He decides to wear it with his power armor. And Luthor stands in at about a little under or a little over 7¼ inches. Alright, so the first thing I noticed upon handling the figure is that the cape, fortunately, it's made of a much thinner, flexible material. You know, if you've been collecting action figures for some time now, you know, the capes are always kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes you get an action figure with a cape that's just too thick and too heavy. Other times you get capes that, you know, just really hinder and limit the articulation of a figure. This cape, it feels nice. It's, as you can see, a much softer material than other capes. It's a much thinner material also. So it doesn't feel like it's going to weigh down the character as much as like some of the capes we've gotten in the past. Head sculpt, I believe this is the same one that we got with the Lex Luthor in the green power armor. I might be wrong. But the face is awesome. Very realistic. Excellent sculpting around the brow, the cheek line, and the jawline. It's one of those figures, like I say all the time, you capture them under the right light and it just takes on a life of its own. Very photogenic figure. The shade of blue looks great. I love the relief on the S. It's a detail that you can really feel, much like the rest of the sculpting on them. Very crisp, very well defined. Excellent job on the body armor. But yeah, that head sculpt, man, that really sells Luthor. That looks incredible. The articulation's nice and solid. Let's try to get him in a... Yeah, that's going to be my thumbnail for the video. Man, this is a nice figure. Alright, so the sculpting is top notch. How is the articulation? His head rotates left and right. He looks down about that much. Does he look up? He looks up. It's decent. You know, if you want to make him, put him in a flying pose, at least he could tilt his head back. Does he have an ab crunch? No, he does not crunch forward, unfortunately. Does he crunch back? Slightly arches back, not a whole lot. His body does have some movement from side to side, as you can see. Cut mid-torso, so he can swivel. Cut at the waist, so he can swivel at the waist. He has that kind of like soft, rubbery diaper that McFarlane figures have. Allows for his legs to kick up about that high. He could kick out. Looks like full splits, which is nice. No thigh swivel. It kind of swivels inward just a little. Double pinned knee, as you can see right there. It's kind of cleverly integrated with the armor. And ankle articulation, toe articulation. As for his arms, the shoulder pads are attached to the top of the shoulder. So when you rotate up, unfortunately, the arm's going to hit. He can rotate out, bicep cut, double pinned elbows, one pin is exposed. You can hear the indents, and then articulated wrists. It's a great figure. Like I said, though, if you're not attached to this character and don't have any, like, sentimentality towards him, you might be just happy with the first release. If you want him in the much more iconic Superman outfit with the cape and minus the villainous Darkseid head, this is the way to go. This is kind of really Luthor at his most heroic, which we don't get very often, so... I'm a big fan of Lex Luthor. I think he's a great, complicated villain with a lot of layers. And I think this is a great figure to embody that. Really well done. Alright, let's get him back into a neutral pose. And let's compare him to the source material, just so we can see how accurate or inaccurate he is. Granted, you know, it's going to vary depending on the illustrator, but I think I have his first appearance pulled up. So this is Luthor. I believe this was Action Comics. Don't remember the exact issue. So this is when he kind of dons Superman's cape and puts on his blue Superman armor. And at some point down the road even assists and kind of becomes a semi-member of the Justice League. And let's get him in the same pose. Now, like I said, you're going to notice some differences in the costume. But like I said, I think it's kind of varies on, you know, who illustrated it and who colored it. But for the most part, I think this does a great job of embodying this. But, you know, there's some slight embellishments. And when I say that, you know, there's taking a couple of liberties and giving you a little bit more detail to bring it to life just a little bit more. but I think it's, you know, a really well done action figure. Definitely one of my favorite releases this year. I love the first release a lot. I think that's amazing. And for me, I think this is really, really a fun thing to have. I've been waiting for this figure for a long time. I was kind of worried that they would never get around to this. So yeah, here's the comic book appearance from Action Comics. As you can see, the flag's at half mast because I think Superman died again or something. And here's Luthor taking up the mantle as Gotham's protector. Very, very cool. Now, this is not the first time we've received this version of Lex Luthor. Long-time toy collectors will remember way back towards the dying years of Mattel's hold on the DC Multiverse. This was one of their later waves before they lost the license to, I think, Spin Masters and McFarlane. We have, I think this is Gotham by Gaslight Batman. And this was part of Mattel's DC Multiverse line. And as you can see, it comes with a Lex Luthor head for their Build-A-Figure. And their Build-A-Figure was Lex Luthor in the power armor. And as you can see here, this one looks a lot more accurate to the comic book than this one. This one takes a lot, there's a whole lot of embellishments going on here. And I believe this also makes a lot of reuse of the green power armor. But this is a fantastic figure. I have all the figures in the set. I just, in my head, I still want to take them out of the box. I'm also like a mint in box collector, so I don't always take out everything. And especially since this is one of the final waves in Mattel's collection of DC figures, you know, I kind of feel the need to just keep this as is. You know, for me, it's just kind of like a I think a museum piece because I'm so fond of Lex Luthor, but also just fond of the DC classics from Mattel. You know, I think, you know, the time they had the license, they did some spectacular action figures. I mean, I'd run into quality control issues every now and then, but for the most part, you know, that line is really what the Marvel Legends line is now. It was really the line to collect back in the day. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. Alright, later.